Have you heard this narrative that the breeders that bought in during the pandemic are flooding the market and putting the industry in jeopardy? You heard that? I got some thoughts. Let's talk about this. What's going on, everybody? I hope that you're doing well today. Thank you so much for joining me. Hey, before we jump into this big debate, and I feel like I'm going to channel my inner Billy Rose and Stephen A. Smith today, but we'll see. Before I do that, though, in the comments, put your favorite breeder that is the COVID keeper, as I'm gonna dub them. The people that bought in, or that bought ball pythons and evolved into the idea of breeding them during the pandemic. Who's your favorite breeder out there? And no, I'm not named Adam. I'm not the best breeder out there from that era for sure. And if I am your favorite, thank you. But I want to hear other names. Put in the comments your favorite pandemic era COVID keeper that you're a fan of. I want to know. So, usually I run my promos and announcements. We'll get to those promos in a minute. Let's just get to the meat of this. Let's get to the elephant in the room for a minute, because really this video is going to be about the effects of the pandemic on our industry and where we're at, and primarily that focuses around the boom and the subsequent results. Some people would say recession, some people would say bust, others say they're doing great and continuing on. Here's my bone to pick with that narrative. The narrative that all of these people that bought ball pythons in the pandemic and suddenly decided they were ball python breeders have flooded the market. They've jeopardized our industry because supply is so high. Here's the bone that I have to pick. If you're making that argument and you were the one selling snakes in the pandemic, what did you think we were going to do with the 5, 10, 20, 30 snakes that you sold us? What did you think was going to happen? What is the result going to be? Come on, you know economics. You know the idea of supply and demand. You can't say that we saturated or oversaturated a market. You oversaturated the market with breeders. I don't want to make it an us and them and a we and you. There have been very, very good established breeders that looked out for me in that time, and I will name those names. Guys like Jeremy Bod at Bod's Exotic Reptiles, Steve Casino, Steve's Morphs, and definitely Dale Richards at Constricted Reptiles, and also a guy named George Endy who's just producing killer stuff. Those guys have helped me so much, have gotten me so far in this industry and moved me so far along on my journey and my evolution. I couldn't be more grateful. But there's also been guys before I was ever even breeding, when I was just going to do my YouTube channel and trying to get interviews at shows and trying to build relationships. I wouldn't call it bullying, that's a pretty strong word, but were certainly patronizing to me, and I've been on this earth 43 years. I know when somebody's going out of their way to try and make me feel about this big. I'm not going to call them out. First, I don't need YouTube drama. That's not what I'm here for. There's enough of that. But secondly, the best response is to go win and to sustain myself and to still be here standing. Got that off my chest, out of the air. Let's talk about what happened. What's the legacy of the pandemic so far in the ball python industry? Right now, it's May of 2023. So almost 3 years, like on the dot, to when the first stimulus checks started going out. I think it's an oversimplification to just say stimulus checks went out, everybody needed their money to spend, and they were bored in the pandemic. There was a lot more going on. We had the pandemic, which was stressful as an understatement. And again, no matter what political beliefs or medical beliefs for that matter, it changed all of our lives. We can like it, we can dislike it, we can pick apart why things happen, how they should have happened, how it should have been different. The fact is that it happened, and here we are. The stimulus money had just gone out, but there was a confluence of several things that I think that the important part of history is the nuances. We remember the big events. Okay, there was a ball python, boom, there was a pandemic. Oh, okay, must have been the stimulus checks, boom, made it happen. So there was this confluence of many things going on. Morph Market existed since 2015, so it was established and growing, while places like King Snake and Fauna and even ballpythons.net, that still existed then. I think it still exists now, but it's kind of pushed out of the market. But also, and don't forget, there was a crypto boom. I'm talking massive amounts of money were flying around, huge amounts of money from generally young people that instantly had a ton of money that didn't even feel real. Didn't matter what the price was. They wanted it. Ball pythons were cool and hip. They were booming. Other people were buying them. People could make the money. And on top of that, in my mind, the specific genes were Sunset and DG. I know that DG's been around for a long time, Desert Ghost, longer than the pandemic time. That time with Justin really spotlighting DG through the pandemic, but also Sunset coming out and really starting to gain traction and to become available. All of that, it all drove prices up. As those genes got more expensive, people thought, oh man, I can make some money with these other ones, that I can breed to those. And it all trickled down, and there was no shortage of money. People suddenly had this luxury money and nothing to go do with it. They couldn't go to restaurants, they couldn't go to concerts, they couldn't go to movies. You know, you were there, you lived through it. All of those things contributed to a ton of people suddenly buying ball pythons. In general, there was a huge increase in the number of pets that people had during the pandemic. They were looking for companionship. They were looking for stuff to do. I know myself, I saw my ball python as a calm refuge from the madness that I was facing, trying to keep my team together in restaurants in a resort setting that was just daily bonkers. All I looked forward to was cleaning that reptile at the end of the night, because it was just quiet and peaceful. You know, I didn't have that in my life. So all of those things were going on, but I circle back to my main point. The money was going to somebody, and that was the established breeders. They were making all their money. I don't knock you for it. That is not my point of this video. I'm not knocking anybody for taking the money that was on the table. I firmly believe that you know, the flip side of the narrative right now would have been at the time to say, hey, all these people are going to flood the market if we keep taking their money. No, nobody said that. Nobody said pump the brakes on taking the money. You took the money then, the result's here now. That's how economics works, and that's how, especially in an agricultural setting where X number can become 5X very, very fast because of production. So where does that leave us right now? I've had some pretty negative experiences of the way that people have treated me, but I go back to my experience in restaurants and my experience in live music, and I've said it many times before the pandemic, and I've said it many times since. If your business model isn't working, you have to change your business model. And that's an oversimplification, and it can even sound a little bit snobby and snotty. Let me give you some context though. Right here, right now, in May of 2023, ball pythons will either be my number one or a very close number two source of income this year, and profitable, sustainable income. So when I say you got to change your business model, I'm saying it as a stakeholder, somebody walking the walk, living, chasing that dream. It's not me just sitting on the sidelines peddling a snake here or there going, well, you know, backseat driving or Monday morning quarterback and whatever the expression is. You got to evolve. You got to change. You got to suddenly be looking. You know, I think a lot of people didn't have to build customer relationships at that time. There was so much money and so many buyers. I think a lot of that's gotten lost just from the way that I've been treated. A lot of customers come to me just because of how I treat them, and I spend a lot of time. I hear a lot of people, whether it be Facebook or various Instagram forums, they complain about tire kickers. They complain about, oh, somebody buys a snake and then they call me because they need help. Yeah, we all vent about it, but at the end of the day, that's just customer service. And again, remember, if somebody buys one, how many of us only have one ball python? That doesn't happen, right? They're going to come back. You got to cultivate that. I mean, that's customer service. So there's way more to it than just saying give better service and that the market's oversaturated. You can navigate through it, but you got to evolve your business model and you got to figure it out. I think that there were a lot of benefits. I think a lot of innovations came, and I think that we forget that. I can make, and I will make the argument, maybe not a sound argument, you can let me know what you think, but I think the explosion, and I'm going to call it an explosion, of genetic testing is due directly from the number of ambitious, aggressive, future forward-thinking breeders that are now in the industry and the marketplace that weren't there before. Yes, genetic testing was underway. Dr. Seidel was moving along well on it. I'm sure other people were. There were colleagues that she has as well. But it's gone fast. I mean, just in the last, 12 months maybe? I mean, there's now competitors on the market, and total respect to Charlie at Gray Rider, but I saw a podcast the other night with him. He said, man, I'm just a dude that figured it out. I'm not even the scientist. Like, this is doable. We're going to have people genetic testing the way that breeders were getting in. There's going to be huge opportunity in the industry because of that. Rack makers, look at them all. They figured it out with CNC machines, reverse engineering, that they could come out with better, competitive, and less expensive and sometimes more durable racks than what were available before. We've seen innovations in everything from like incubators. I mean, Wilbanks, we all thought that the incubator was solved. It was good enough. You didn't need any more, right? Wilbanks innovated. All these innovations came because there was now this huge demand and a new market space, and they diversified what was going on. Husbandry Pro, look at the evolution of that. Clutch, that's all come because of the pandemic. I think it's a simplification just to go, oh, the market's flooded because of these people. That's not cool. There's a lot more to it. There's benefits that have happened. I'm confident, I know we're going to see an exponential evolution of what is visually possible with ball pythons. The number of people working projects and breeding right now, and the combination of the availability of genetic testing is going to be unreal. I just saw a post today from my good friends Stephen and Courtney at Leviathan Snakes. They bought a triple het male to chase a sunset hypo something called a clown, and they were very specific. We're going to use this guy because we know we got genetic testing in our back pocket. It won't change the outcomes, but we'll know what to breed to improve the odds of outcomes. That's a triple visual that they're chasing, starting with a triple het. The other sex, they have some visuals to work with, but not a triple visual. So that mindset is going to happen, and we're going to see these things evolve. Yeah, some prices have fallen, but we're also going to go to the moon on new combinations that we're going to see, and it's going to happen fast. It's going to be like the innovations that we see in computers and just how fast they come along. I think what we don't know is where the world of pet owners is going to be. What trickles down to pet level? What happens to those prices? It's hard to say. I really don't know. I don't have that answer. I have thoughts that I've always said many times. You know, if we look at Brian Barczyk, he's got 4 million plus followers. If we're worried about 40,000 snakes when there's 4 million followers of Barczyk, we're in fine shape. That's not oversaturated. Yeah, a lot of those might be kids. Maybe there'll be kids that in 4 or 5 years are buying snakes. The industry moves slow. 4 or 5 years in the industry is not that much, right? I think it's overall healthy. I do a lot of shows these days. I'm seeing a lot. I myself am able to make a good run at income and revenue and a living. I think that you could find a way. You just can't use the pandemic era as the bar. That's just not gonna. That's not gonna work. That's all that is gonna do is make you resentful, and frankly, it's gonna make you look kind of short-sighted. I think that's my 2 cents on that. The negative effects. Yeah, there's a lot of snakes out there. I know that there are a lot of snakes, but I will say even in the 6 months of 2023 that we're coming up on now, I have seen a lot of breeders get out. People quit. That is the economic cleansing that will happen. People won't make it. They'll throw it in. They'll find something else to chase. They realize that the honeymoon's over and the hard work has to start, and they're gonna move on. Okay, I mean, it's not healthy to a person, to the individual, but that's healthy for the industry. We need to clean that out. If people aren't fully in it, we can't really expect them. We can't expect them. Excuse me. We should expect people to have an ethical treatment of animals. We can't be surprised if unethical practices come out, though, and that is something that we're worried about. I hear it brought up a lot. Where are all the adult male pet snakes? I don't know. There are those ethical concerns that come with it. I would argue those ethical concerns are always there. There have always been mass production of ball pythons. There's more of it now, but that's always been there. And if you don't believe it, you can, come on, you know the big guys' names, and I don't want to cast them in a negative light. I actually know one very, very well, and I think he's highly ethical. I have no problem with what he's doing, but he is a mass producer of ball pythons. I think I brought it up before, but we are gonna see, I talked about an exponential growth in morph production and innovation. We're gonna see the inverse of that when it comes to how fast certain genes depreciate. It looks like there's some, in my opinion, I can't back this up with numbers and stats. I can back it up with some experience. There are some blue chips that, and primarily I mean pied and clown. I've often held on to this theory that I don't need to be rich, but I need dependable income. And pied and clown seem to be that right now. Time will tell. I don't have enough experience in the industry to know this 100%, but that's what it feels like, and that's what those blue chip dependabilities are. You know, it's kind of like the group of stocks that make up the Dow Jones. You're probably not going to make more than 8 to 10% a year. On the other hand, you're going to make 8 to 10% a year just following the Dow. That's kind of how I feel about pieds and clowns. Like, I think you got to have some safety nets, or you're really putting yourself out there and you're putting yourself at risk. Different people have very, very different opinions on that. People that I'm very good friends with. You can look on my channel for some debates on diversification versus a singular focus when it comes to genetics. But I will say, something that's evolved is this idea of sort of singular projects. I'm seeing that fade away a whole lot more to everything's going to a multiple recessives. I mean, we always stacked codoms. How come we can't stack recessives? And that really blurs the line between, well, I'm in this project and I'm not in that. Just overlap them and go for a double, and suddenly you're in both, right? And that's something I've seen since I've been in the industry. Again, a little bit over 3 years. I don't think I said earlier, April 2020, I bought my first modern ball python. I had ball pythons in college back in 98 to 2002, somewhere in there. Look, I think the overall effect of the pandemic on as it relates to the ball python industry is going to be good. I mean, so many people got exposed to ball pythons. There's so many active breeders, so many people that are still chasing this, so many spin-offs and helpful market segments that didn't exist before. We really didn't even talk about the YouTube boom. There's people making money on YouTube channels out there based around reptiles and ball pythons. Again, the rack makers, the software engineers that are just blowing up. Hey, even new social platforms just rolled out. Herp Social, I didn't even know was on the horizon. That landed in my inbox the other day, and there was another one I heard of. Shane from Small Town just put out a video about 2 different social platforms that are only reptile related. I didn't even know there was 2 of them. All these things evolved because of the boom that took place during the pandemic. If all you're focusing on is the troubles with a saturated market, you're missing opportunities elsewhere, and I think that you're missing the benefits that come with the bigger picture and that come with a long period of time. It hasn't even been 3 years since we're out of the pandemic, and you're already willing to write off the industry and say that it's dead and that we'll never bounce back? Buck up, man. Come on. You got to get through. Any business goes through tough times. You're talking to a guy that spent 27 years in restaurants, man. We'll get there. We're doing all right. Hey, thanks for hearing me out. I can tell you there will be a ton of comments and opinions. Lay them on me. Let me know what you think. Try and keep them cool, you know. But let's talk about it. Thanks for joining me today. I hope that you'll stay right here, and when I get some other new opinion and idea, I'll share it right here. In the meantime, check out these videos. Keep it tuned here to the Proper Royals channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, see ya.